When my grandfather stood up from the table and said he was gay, I thought it was a stroke, or a joke, or insanity. But that was just the beginning. We were gathering at my parents' place for Thanksgiving. Everything was painfully generic. Perfectly roasted turkey, candles on the table, Pinterest-style place settings, crooked smiles, and one unspoken question hanging in the air. Who's going to snap first? I'm Mike, 24, the unofficial family disappointment. Dropped out of college in my sophomore year because it wasn't for me. Work at a car repair shop. I smoke. I act rough around the edges. My mom thinks I've gone astray. My grandma secretly prays for me. And Grandpa was always silent. Like furniture, he was one of those guys who wears a cap with the American flag, says, "I've done my part," and buys coffee from 7-Eleven because they've got honest bourbon in the vending machine. I showed up late, as usual, opened the door, and the first thing that hit me was the smell of fried sweet potatoes and artificial family warmth. In the kitchen, Aunt Brenda was arranging pies while exchanging glances with my mom. Dad, tense as a mousetrap, was pouring wine into a decanter. Grandpa sat by the window, perfectly upright, like a soldier in formation, staring at a fixed point, fiddling with something in his hands. I sat near the corner of the table, trying to minimize contact. The plan was simple. Don't comment on anyone's marriage. Don't ask questions. Eat as much mashed potatoes as humanly possible. Dinner followed the standard script. Are you still working at that? Car wash? No, Mom. It's a service station. Well, at least it's not drugs. Laughter. Awkwardness. The traditional mic roasting check. Everyone around the table pretended everything was fine, but you could feel it. Something was brewing. Grandpa slowly got up. At first I thought he just wanted more gravy, or maybe his back was acting up again. But then he said, "I have something to say." Everything froze. Aunt Brenda froze mid-ladle. Dad stopped chewing. Grandma whispered, "Oh Lord," and crossed herself. Even the dog under the table stopped scratching. Grandpa looked at each of us in turn like it was a board meeting. I've lived a lie my whole life. Silence. Aunt Brenda gasped. I nearly choked on my wine. I'm gay. What? I have a partner. You know him. It's Bob, my coworker, from the parking lot security shift. We served together. And not just that. The reaction was so over the top, I remember it frame by frame like a movie scene. Mom drops her wine glass tink. Dad starts laughing, like he just heard a joke about a plumber and a parrot. Aunt Brenda starts crossing herself again just to be safe. And Grandma stands up, grabs a kitchen towel, and starts whacking Grandpa on the shoulder with it. What the hell? Have you lost your mind, old man? And these not here's afted, she shouts. Right on Thanksgiving, really? It is entire Friendsty. I'm sitting in the corner, eyes wide, only one thought in my head. This is a dream. I'm asleep. I've been poisoned. Grandpa stood there calmly, like he just mentioned a new hobby, collecting butterflies. Dad wipes tears from laughing. Oh, Dad, you really got us. I thought you were going to say you had cancer or sold the house. But no, you're gay. Ha, that's rich. But Grandpa didn't laugh. He didn't react at all. Just stared out the window. This isn't a joke, Tom, he said quietly. I'm serious. Bob and I have been together for 5 years, and I'm tired of lying. That's when everyone realized this wasn't a sketch. Mom slowly sat down. Aunt Brenda choked on her cranberry sauce. Dad was silent for the first time all night. So all this time while we were sitting here, Grandma snapped, you were out there gaying it up with Bob on the parking lot? The acreals, we were just... The best we could, Grandpa replied. The dog barked. Twice. I swear. And there I was, 24 years old, grease under my nails, no degree, a car mechanic sitting and watching my grandfather, the quietest, grumpiest, most boring man I knew, open his mouth and say, I loved him. Still do. More than I've ever loved my own life. Dad jumped up. Enough. This is a madhouse. Are you on the wrong meds? Or have you been watching too much CNN? It was well to spas. It was not to scrav. And that's when I realized there's no salvaging this dinner now. In the movies, it looks beautiful. Someone tells the truth. The family hugs. Piano music starts playing. Yeah, sure. Ours went a completely different way. We had a full-blown rebellion on a festive tablecloth. Right after Grandpa's coming out, the house exploded in a soundscape comparable only to a fire drill on an Air Force base. Dad stood up and stared at Grandpa like he'd just suggested they all pitch in for an OnlyFans subscription. Wait, seriously? You're a security guard. You're a veteran. You read the Bible before bed. And what? You think gay men can't wear a holster? Grandpa replied calmly. While Dad tried to formulate an answer, Mom loudly announced, "Well, congrats. Thanks for ruining dinner. Can't we just have one meal a year in silence? Is there a Screlms?" And then, as if everyone had conspired, Aunt Brenda exclaimed, "Wait, Bob? You mean the one with the mustache and beer belly? I thought he was just a coworker." "He's a great man," Grandpa replied, "and his mustache is magnificent." With every word from Grandpa, the room grew hotter. Grandma returned from the kitchen no towel this time, but with a look that said she was about to summon the spirit of St. Peter to drag all the sinners out of her house. She marched right up to Grandpa and hissed, "Tomorrow morning, 8:30 sharp, you, Mike, will drive me to the parking lot. I'll rip out every last one of his hairs. Bob's too." I cleared my throat. "Grandma, maybe. Don't tell me how to live. I gave birth to your mother," she snapped. For a moment, everything went quiet. Even the dog hid under the couch. And then Uncle John, yes, the one who screams at weddings and yells, "America, wake up!" on Facebook, jumped up and shouted, "You're disgracing the memory of God in this house." The house where I grew up, where I ate meat and potatoes, where we prayed before meals, not bobbed on parking lots. "Oh my God, John, stop," Aunt Brenda said. "You've been divorced twice, and once almost married a woman named Randy, who turned out to be a man." John turned red, like he'd swallowed a Carolina Reaper. Uncle Rick, the quietest of them all, suddenly raised his wine glass. "I think it's good," Grandpa finally said it. "Maybe now you'll finally act normal, Dad." "You too, Rick? Business is stifferit." John roared. "What is this? A gay club now? Thanks for watching this pretty comment. And then it's for watching this saprint." "You jealous?" Rick winked. While they argued, Mom pulled out a dessert box, placed it on the table, and said, "If you're going to yell, do it over pie." I didn't spend 6 hours baking for this to end up in the trash. I silently cut myself a slice. If I was going to watch the collapse of my family, I might as well do it with cherry filling in my mouth. And so, picture this. Grandpa standing like the Statue of Liberty, Grandma plotting a tactical assault on a parking lot, John screaming about the end of America, Rick eating pie and nodding at Grandpa in approval, Mom staring into the void like she's searching for a leave chat button, and me. I'm just sitting there thinking, what's next? Grandma sets the guard shack on fire? Bob shows up with a karaoke speaker for a coming-out sing-along? Amidst the chaos, Grandpa turned to me and said, "Mike, you've got a good head on your shoulders. You'll drive Grandma tomorrow, right?" I nodded, because otherwise face meet baseball bat. He added, "And don't worry, it'll pass. Like vacation diarrhea." At that moment, I couldn't help but wonder, how long had he been planning this speech? And why today, of all days? Then I noticed a folded paper sticking out of his pocket. Apparently, he rehearsed. The awkward silence was broken by the clink of a fork hitting a plate. Aunt Brenda had dropped her silverware and muttered, "I can't do this anymore. I'm going to sit in the car. At least out there, no one talks about mustaches and holsters." It is an after. The dog crawled out from under the couch, sat next to me, and sighed. Honestly, I felt a deep spiritual connection with that dog. "You promised. 8:30. Parking lot. The bat's already in the car. Shut up and drive." It wasn't a request. It was a command from Grandma, issued first thing in the morning. No good morning, no coffee, no options. I woke up with a mild hangover because at 3 a.m. I decided to calm my nerves with some of Dad's garage beer. Mom was clinking dishes behind the door like she was rehearsing the Nutcracker, but instead of dancing passive aggression, Dad said nothing. The dog had hidden in the pantry. She got it too. 8:27 a.m. I pulled up to Grandma's house. She came out like a special ops team commander. Black jacket with a leopard print collar, gloves, sunglasses straight out of Miami Vice, and, yep, a baseball bat. Real, with duct tape wrapped around the handle. "Let's go. They've got a break till 9. We have to get there while they're still sipping tea. Grandma, maybe we can just talk?" "Michael, don't disgrace my gray hair. Drive." Dot. We rode in silence. I turned on the radio, she turned it off. Don't get distracted. I need focus. When we pulled up to the parking lot, my heart dropped into my shoes. Just a regular lot next to a supermarket. Guard shack. Fences. Turnstiles. Nothing special. Except one thing. There really were 2 guards inside. Do you even know what Bob looks like? I whispered. No. But if he's breathing, he's getting hit. Grandma shot out of the car like a bullet. I didn't even get a word in. She ran up to the booth, raised the bat, and smashed the plastic window with full force. The window cracked loudly. A scream came from inside. Where are you, Sugar Plum? Come out, Bob. I'll give you a bobbing you'll never forget. A man stepped out of the booth. About 55, shocked, wearing a vest, no mustache. In one hand, a coffee mug. In the other, a donut. He had no idea what to do. I had no idea what to do. Grandma knew exactly what to do. She raised the bat again. You, Bob? You've been bobbing with my husband? It's less to do, Iggs. The guy slowly placed his mug on the windowsill. I'm Carl. Been working here 3 days. I don't know who you are. Grandma turned to me. It's not him. You think? Are you kidding me? He's a spectre. That's when the police arrived. Someone from the parking lot had hit the panic button. The officer stepped out of the car and said, Ma'am, put the bat down. And tell me what the hell you're doing smashing a guard booth window. I was looking for Bob. Grandma yelled. He seduced my husband and ruined my son. He's gay. Ma'am, that's not a criminal offense. But this broken window that's getting closer. Please step into the patrol car. Grandma climbed into the police car on her own, like it was a limousine, with dignity, with a sense of mission accomplished. Meanwhile, Carl just stood there staring at me like I'd sold him a fake TV on Craigslist. I walked over to him. Sorry, it's just been a weird week. I paid for the broken window, $180, plus another $50 for emotional distress compensation to Carl. He said, well, now I've got a story for my grandkids. But judging by his face, he'd prefer a quiet retirement. We got home. Grandpa met us on the porch. Toothpick in mouth, coffee in hand, panic in his eyes. Where were you? He asked. You don't know? Grandma asked back. Well, I figured, but I didn't think you'd actually believe it. The pause that followed made my insides clench. Grandpa looked down, took a sip of coffee. I just saw it on TikTok. People doing these pranks at family dinners. Like, I'm gay family reaction. Everyone laughs. It goes viral. Hype. I just wanted to have a little fun. You're serious? Well, I thought you'd get the joke. Bob's just a guy. 3 kids. A dog. We work shifts together. He doesn't even know what TikTok is. You broke the family for likes? He shrugged. I just wanted people to talk about me. To remember me. For something. And you know what? In that moment, I didn't even know what to say. On the one hand, a complete idiot. On the other, a lonely idiot who just wanted to be the center of attention. Just once. Sometimes the dumbest things don't come from stupidity. They come from fear. Fear that no one sees you anymore. After everything the parking lot, the police, the bat, and the great non-gay conspiracy reveal, a silence settled over the house. The kind of silence where it feels like everyone lost their sight, hearing, and will to live all at once. Grandma was released without charges, thankfully. Carl turned out to be a pacifist and said, well, a grandma with a bat that's practically patriotic. But at home, she didn't say a word. She just sat in the kitchen, a red-hot candy in her mouth, drilling her husband with a death stare. Grandpa didn't joke, didn't lie, didn't defend himself. He just wandered the house like he was waiting for a verdict. Me? I just wanted to leave, but something made me stay. Probably because I saw myself in Grandpa. Just 40 years from now. When you're technically alive, working, eating hot dogs, reading newspapers, but no one sees how you feel. Because even you don't know how to say it. That evening, once everyone had left, I went outside for a smoke. A few minutes later, Grandpa came out too. Sat next to me on the steps. Brought a can of Dr. Pepper and a bag of peanuts. Classic. You mad at me? He asked. No, I just don't get it. He shrugged. I don't get it either. I'm not gay. Never was. Been married 40 years. Got 2 kids. I don't even like movies with gay characters. But I saw this TikTok. where a guy stands up at the holiday table and says, "I'm gay," and his whole family is shocked. Then they laugh. Then they hug. And the video, millions of views. I thought, if I do that, maybe someone will at least mention me in the comments. I looked at him, and for the first time in my life, I didn't see Grandpa the security guard with the cap. I saw a man, tired, confused, a little lonely. You were always the quiet one. I was always invisible. He crushed the Dr. Pepper can and went on. I watch you young people. You live inside your phones, always liking, filming, commenting. And I realized if you're not loud, it's like you don't exist. But you staged a whole performance. Yeah, but I wanted you to remember this dinner. Just once. Not as the day the pie burned, but as the day Grandpa blew everything up. I was silent for a long time. Then I said, "Well, it worked. We'll never forget." He smiled and added, "And I also wanted to see what you'd do. Whether you'd believe me, who'd stand up, who'd run, who'd hit me with a dish towel. And now I know." The next morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon. Yep, Grandma was making breakfast. Apron on, no bet. I went downstairs. Grandpa was already at the table. "Good morning," I said. "We'll see about that," Grandma muttered, placing a plate of 2 sunny-side-up eggs in front of him. On one yolk, written in ketchup, were the words, "Lies aren't breakfast." I didn't know whether to laugh or stay quiet. "Gotta start somewhere," Grandpa said. "Might as well be with eggs." A couple hours later, I was getting ready to leave when Grandma called me into the kitchen. Her voice was quiet, no threats. "Michael?" I believed him, you know. What? When he said he was gay, I believed it, because he's been with me his whole life, but never really next to me. He's always hidden himself. And I thought, what if he was just playing a role? But he said it was a prank. Yeah, but not every prank is a joke, you know? Sometimes people do dumb things not to get a laugh, but because the truth is even scarier. I didn't respond, because she was right. This whole story, it wasn't about sexuality, or TikTok, or even Bob from the parking lot. It was about loneliness, about how hard it is to feel invisible in your own family. Before I left, Grandpa handed me a piece of paper. This was my speech. I wrote it when I was rehearsing. You can throw it away. Or, might come in handy one day. I read the first line. "Hi, my name is Frank. I'm a grandpa, and I also want you to hear me. You don't have to understand your loved ones, but at least try not to be the first one to laugh." I came up with that line that same night, the night we finally talked it all out. No yelling, no bats, no dumb speeches read off a piece of paper. A week had passed. Everyone had sort of drifted back to their corners, but the aftertaste lingered. You know the kind, like the smell of over-fried fish in a tiny apartment. Seems gone, but something still stinks. I thought things would quiet down, but then Grandma called me again. "Come over. I'm baking a pie. No arson, no bats. Just talk." So I came. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon. Grandpa was out in the garden, poking at the flower bed like it held the meaning of life. And Grandma, she looked older, like that week had wrung her out from the inside. We sat at the table. The pie was perfect. Even the glaze looked like it was from a magazine cover. "I still don't believe him," she said. "Who?" "Your grandpa. I mean, I believe it was a joke, but I don't believe it was meaningless." I stayed quiet. She kept going. "Did you know he's worn the same jacket his whole life, even in summer, because it makes him feel normal?" His words. I used to think he was just stubborn, but now, I wonder if he was just scared of being himself. Even for a minute, we sat in silence. Then she stood up, walked to the bedroom, came back with the bat. "Here, take it, just in case I get any more bright ideas." "Are you serious?" More serious than he was with that speech. I took the bat. Later, I went to check on Grandpa in the yard. He was sitting in a folding chair, crumbling bread for the birds. "How are you?" I asked, a little scratched up, but all right. "You ever think about apologizing?" He sighed. "I wanted to, but then I realized you apologize when you do something to someone. I did it because I was scared and lonely and hurt, because my voice doesn't carry anymore, not even in my own house." "So what now?" He shrugged. "Now, I think maybe I am a little different. Not like orientation-wise, just I don't fit the mold. I'm a security guard with TikTok in his soul and loneliness in his chest. So what now? Firing squad? I laughed. Grandpa did too. For the first time in all of this, a real laugh. By the way, he added, if I were gay, it sure as hell wouldn't be Bob. His breath smells like tuna. It's tragic. We both burst out laughing. Loud. So loud, Grandma peeked through the window. If you're laughing, I guess you made up. She yelled. Should I finish the pie or just serve it half-baked, like your logic? Next Thanksgiving, I came over again with a store-bought pie because I still can't cook for shit. The whole family showed up again. Dad and Uncle John didn't mention a thing. Uncle Rick winked at Grandpa like they were old war buddies. And Grandpa stood up again. Everyone froze. Even the dog went silent. I just want to say, he started, this year I'm not gay, not a blogger, not a showman. I'm just Grandpa, and I'm glad you all came. Because, damn it, I love you. Even John. Even me? John asked. Well, with conditions, Grandpa smirked. Everyone laughed. And suddenly, the room felt warm. Not forced. Not fake. Then Aunt Brenda raised her glass for a toast. To never again doing a coming out without warning. And to keeping TikTok inside our phones, not in our family dramas. When I stepped outside and got into my car, I thought, sometimes the weirdest things open your eyes. Even if it starts with a dumb, I'm gay at the holiday table. And, yeah, we've now officially banned 3 topics at family dinners. Politics, orientation, and TikTok. But we are allowed to love each other. Even if one of us is a slightly insane grandpa with a speech from TikTok.